No, keep going. And welcome to JNN's Headline News. I'm Kimberly Broderick. In the headlines at this time, 3 persons were shot, 1 fatally in Mount Valley, St. Elizabeth on Friday morning. 19-year-old tattoo artist Omari Ras of Hayes, Clarendon, along with his brother and another man, were shot in a home robbery. Mr. Ras died on the spot. Reports are that 2 armed men knocked on their door, claiming to be the police, and upon opening the door, they were robbed. The gunmen were then placed on the ground and shot. Their female companion, however, was not harmed. The gunmen stole 2 vehicles from the house and escaped. The brother of the deceased is still in the hospital. A top-level probe is being carried out into the seizure of 26 guns at ports in Kingston, as the police high command says it is clamping down on arms trafficking. The police, along with a contraband enforcement team of the Jamaica Customs Agency, discovered 10 firearms and 640 rounds of ammunition at a wharf in Kingston on Wednesday. This was followed by another operation on Thursday where 16 firearms at a container terminal were seized. Head of the Counterterrorism and Organized Crime Investigation Branch, CTOC, Assistant Commissioner Fitz Bailey, says he is expecting more seizures. A recently published Inter-American Development Bank IDB study has listed Jamaica among 5 countries in the Caribbean and Latin America with the least number of prisoners detained without a conviction. Other countries with similar conditions include Belize, Panama, Nicaragua, and Trinidad and Tobago. Haiti headed the list of people detained without conviction, followed by Paraguay, Bolivia, the Dominican Republic, and Uruguay. The report also said that in the last 10 years, the region has introduced major reforms to speed up procedures and judgments. Despite this, the IDB says that the number of persons deprived of their liberty without conviction remains high. The Ministry of Education has announced plans to hire a firm to provide security for students in the corporate area on their way home from school. This comes amidst reports of students of Kingston College and St. George's College being robbed on North Street in Kingston after leaving school. The reports triggered an emergency meeting involving the police, principals, and student leaders at St. George's on Tuesday. The Office of the Public Defender has raised concerns that an emergency powers review tribunal has not been named for the state of public emergency in the corporate area. Prime Minister Andrew Holness had disclosed that he had already made his selections for the panel when the state of public emergency was declared on September 23. Mr. Holness says the Chief Justice was still to name his pick. Meanwhile, Public Defender Arlene Harrison Henry laments the lack of improvement in the condition of detainees under the state of emergency. Frustration has escalated in the impasse between workers on the Mandela Highway Improvement Project and China Harbour Engineering Company, CHEC. The president of the Union of Clerical, Administrative and Supervisory Employees, Vincent Morrison, confirms that the relationship between the 2 parties has deteriorated to the point where the Prime Minister's intervention is now necessary. Now in its 6th day, the employees' strike action is aimed at securing better working conditions and wages. Tensions escalated Thursday following a meeting involving government and CHEC officials, to which trade unions representing the CHEC workers on strike were not invited. This was further compounded by a subsequent statement with an assertion by CHEC that it is paying wages in line with industry standards. The Diabetes Association of Jamaica has withdrawn its endorsement of the current campaign by the Health Ministry to restrict certain sugary drinks from public schools. The disclosure was made by the president and co-founder of the association, Professor Errol Morrison. While he is in full support of campaigns to improve nutrition and reduce obesity, the messages in the ministry's campaign, he finds, are not medically correct. Specifically, the messages are leading the public to believe that sugary drinks cause diabetes. In the meantime, despite the withdrawal of the endorsement, Professor Morrison accepts that the Diabetes Association of Jamaica and the Ministry of Health have a common purpose of improving the diet and health of Jamaicans. And in international news, India could soon be faced with the threat of U.S. sanctions following a controversial $5 billion weapons deal with Russia, a move that is reportedly more of a challenge for Washington than it is for Delhi. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi finalized the deal, which will see India take possession of a high-tech missile defense system during a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in New Delhi on Friday. The deal could potentially expose India to U.S. sanctions under the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act, CAATSA. The U.S. imposed sanctions against China in September for its purchases of similar weapons from Russia under the CAATSA legislation. But whereas China is an emerging rival power, India is seen as an important U.S. strategic ally. And that's it for Headline News. Join us at 8 p.m. for more details in Frontline News. I'm Kimberly Broderick, wishing you pleasant viewing.